My daughter's groom called me a vegetable at their wedding. Is this drooling thing really your mother? Ethan shrieked, his custom tuxedo perfectly pressed as he pointed at my wheelchair. Get her out of my sight. 215 guests stared. My daughter Diana looked mortified. The oxygen tank beside me hissed softly. I did not flinch, did not beg, just sat there, letting his words hang in the air like poison. Here is what that beautiful groom did not know. I am worth $58 million. The wheelchair? Fake. The oxygen? Theater prop. The trembling hands? $220,000 of Hollywood special effects that I created myself. I am Rebecca Stanton, retired costume designer and makeup artist, Oscar-nominated, patent holder. And I had been testing his character for 7 months. He was failing spectacularly. What happened next would make his perfect wedding day crumble like a house of cards. But first, let me tell you how we got here. It started 7 months ago when Diana announced her engagement. I was genuinely happy for her. My girl had found love with Ethan Caldwell, a hospital chief financial officer from Boston, smart, successful, handsome, everything a mother could want for her daughter, except for one small problem. He thought I was broke. You see, after my husband Thomas died 3 years ago, I had been living simply, real simply. Studio apartment in Lincoln Park, Chicago. 12-year-old Toyota Camry. Target clothes. I stopped talking about my old Hollywood career, my patents, my investments. Grief does that to you sometimes. Diana knew I had worked in costume design and special effects makeup, but she had no idea about the money. The $58 million came from selling my effects company to Warner Brothers in 2019. Patents for breakthrough prosthetic makeup technology, royalties that still rolled in every month. I kept it quiet. Wanted to see who people really were when they thought I had nothing. Ethan failed that test immediately. Our first dinner together was at some trendy place in River North. He kept checking his phone. Barely looked at me. When the waiter asked about wine, he said whatever is cheapest. We are paying for Rebecca too. Diana looked embarrassed. I said nothing. During dessert, Ethan leaned forward with fake concern. So, Rebecca, Diana says you are between jobs. Have you considered senior services? There are programs for people in your situation. My situation. Like I was some charity case. I am managing fine, I said quietly. Well, we want to help, he continued, his voice dripping with condescension. Maybe we could find you a nice assisted living place. Nothing fancy but clean, safe. I watched him carefully. This man wanted to warehouse me before I even became a problem. The pattern continued for months. At Diana's birthday party, Ethan seated me at the kids' table. More appropriate for your level, he whispered. When they went house hunting, he made sure I knew I was not welcome. It is really a place for young professionals, he explained. You would feel out of place. At their engagement party, he introduced me to his parents as Diana's mother. She is struggling since her husband passed. We are keeping an eye on her. His mother, Catherine, looked at me with pity. His father, Robert, barely acknowledged my existence. But the real test came when Ethan started planning the wedding. We need to discuss your mother. I heard him tell Diana through their apartment door. I had come to drop off a birthday card. What about her? Diana asked. She is going to embarrass us. Look at her. Those old clothes. That beaten down look. My family will think we are poor. Mom has had a rough time since Dad died. That is exactly my point. She looks like she belongs in a nursing home, not at our wedding. Cannot you clean her up? Buy her a decent suit? I knocked. The conversation stopped. Mom! Diana opened the door, flustered. I did not know you were coming by. Ethan appeared behind her, his smile plastic. Rebecca, how nice. We were just talking about the wedding. I heard, I said calmly. His cheeks reddened, but he did not apologize. Instead, he doubled down. Well, since you are here, we should discuss logistics. The venue is quite upscale. There is a dress code. He handed me a brochure for Men's Warehouse. Nothing too expensive. We do not want you to strain your budget. That is when I made my decision. I was going to test him completely. Push him to show his true colors in front of everyone who mattered. If he could treat a grieving widow like garbage when he thought she was poor, what would he do when he thought she was truly helpless? I called my old contacts at Chicago FX Studios. Actually, I called Lisa Torres, my former business partner. I need a favor, I told her. Something big. 2 weeks later, I was transformed. The wheelchair was medical grade. $13,000 with hidden recording equipment built into the armrest. The oxygen tank was theater prop but perfect replica. The latex prosthetics I designed myself made my hands shake convincingly. The glycerin drool looked heartbreakingly real. I practiced for hours. Slurred speech. Confused expressions. The whole performance of a woman broken by stroke. Diana was devastated when she saw me. "Mom, what happened? When did this start?" "Last month," I whispered, my voice carefully modulated to sound weak. "Came on sudden. Doctor says stroke." Her occupational therapy training kicked in. She wanted to examine me, run tests, assess my functional abilities. I deflected with confusion, made excuses about specialists, gave her just enough medical terminology to seem legitimate without being verifiable. Ethan's reaction was everything I expected and worse. The first time he saw me in the wheelchair, he actually recoiled. "Oh my God," he whispered to Diana. "How bad is it?" "The doctors are not sure," Diana said, her voice breaking. "She might recover some function, but she cannot come to the wedding like this," Ethan said immediately. "Look at her." "She is my mother, Ethan, and I understand that. But this is our day, our perfect day. I have worked 2 years planning this. I cannot have that in all our photos." "That," he called me that. "Maybe she could stay home," he suggested. "We will have someone live stream it for her." Diana fought for me. I have to give her credit. But Ethan was relentless. If she absolutely must come, he finally conceded. "She stays in the back. No photos, no reception line, and someone needs to watch her constantly." The test was working perfectly, but I had no idea how spectacularly he would fail. Let me take you back further. Show you the pattern that led to this moment. 3 months before the wheelchair, before the prosthetics, before I decided to become the woman Ethan thought was beneath him, it was May when Diana brought Ethan home for Sunday dinner. I cooked pot roast, Thomas's favorite. The apartment smelled like home, like family, like the life I had built over 63 years. Ethan arrived in a BMW, parked it carefully on my street like he was afraid someone might touch it. He wore a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly rent, or so he thought. Diana was nervous. Kept straightening things, fluffing pillows. She wanted this to go well, wanted her successful CFO boyfriend to approve of her widowed mother in her small Chicago apartment. Dinner was awkward from the start. Ethan looked around my studio like he was touring a museum of poverty. "Is this the whole place?" he asked. "Just the one room?" "It is enough for me," I said, setting down plates. Diana jumped in quickly. "Mom likes to keep things simple. After Dad died, she downsized." Downsized. That was the story we had told. The truth was, I owned the building, all 6 units, plus 4 other properties in Lincoln Park. But Ethan did not need to know that yet. He poked at the pot roast. "Is this organic? The beef?" "I am not sure," I said honestly. "I buy what is on sale at Jewel." He set down his fork. "Diana eats organic now. Since we started dating, her health has really improved." I smiled. "She looks wonderful." "She does," Ethan agreed. "We have a personal nutritionist, meal plans, Really transformed her lifestyle. Diana looked uncomfortable. Ethan kept talking. You know, Rebecca, you should think about your health too. At your age, nutrition becomes critical. I am doing fine. Are you though? He gestured around the apartment. Living alone at your age in a place like this. It is a lot of stress. Stress ages you. I could see Diana wanting to disappear into the floor. Mom is only 63. Exactly. That is young. But look at her. He was looking at me like I was a specimen. Like something to be studied and diagnosed. The grief has really taken a toll, he continued. Have you considered therapy? Support groups? Maybe some antidepressants? I am managing, I said quietly. Well, Diana worries. She tells me you barely leave the apartment, that you stopped seeing friends. That you gave up your hobbies, my hobbies. I spent 35 years in Hollywood creating Oscar-nominated costume designs and special effects makeup. I held 7 patents on prosthetic technology. But to Ethan, I had given up my hobbies. After dinner, he pulled Diana aside. I heard them in the hallway. Your mother needs help, he said. Professional help. She is depressed, isolated, living in poverty. Mom is not in poverty, Diana defended. Rebecca, look at this place. 1 room, bargain furniture. Cheap food. She is barely surviving. She chose this after Dad died. She wanted something smaller, or she cannot afford anything bigger. Ethan, I know my mother. Do you? Because I see all the signs of someone spiraling. And frankly, Diana, it reflects on you too. That made Diana pause. What do you mean? My family is flying in from Boston for the engagement party next month. My father golfs with hospital board members. My mother chairs 3 charity foundations. They are going to meet your mother and think what exactly? That stopped Diana cold. I could hear her struggling. Mom has had a hard time. I understand that, but you need to manage this situation before it becomes embarrassing. The engagement party was worse. Catherine and Robert Caldwell arrived at the Chicago Athletic Association like visiting royalty. They wore clothes that whispered money. Old money. Boston Brahmin money that looked down on new money, and poor people with equal disdain. I wore my best dress, a simple black number from Macy's clearance rack, $79. I looked appropriate, respectable, exactly like a widow on a fixed income should look. Catherine took one look at me, and her smile became pity. Rebecca, how lovely to meet you finally. Diana speaks so highly of you. Thank you, Mrs. Caldwell. Please call me Catherine. She air-kissed near my cheek. And this must be quite overwhelming for you. All these people, this venue. We wanted something intimate, Diana said quickly. The Caldwells insisted on hosting. Robert shook my hand limply. So you are Diana's mother. Ethan tells me you worked in costumes. Costume design and special effects makeup, I corrected. For 35 years. In Hollywood mostly. How interesting, Robert said in a tone that meant how unimportant. And now you are retired? Yes. Living in the city? A small place in Lincoln Park. Catherine and Robert exchanged a look. One of those married couple looks that communicates volumes. Throughout the party they seated me at a side table. Away from their Boston friends. Away from the hospital board members. Away from anyone important. I sat with Diana's college roommate and 2 distant cousins who looked as uncomfortable as I felt. From my exile, I watched Ethan work the room. He introduced Diana to everyone. My fiancé. Occupational therapist at Chicago Rehab Institute. Top of her field. So talented. He never once mentioned me. When someone asked about Diana's family, Ethan would gesture vaguely. Her mother is here somewhere. Retired. Living simply. The subtext was clear. Diana came from nothing, but she was marrying up. Way up. And her poor struggling mother would not be a problem. At one point, Catherine cornered me near the bathroom. "Rebecca, I wanted to talk to you about the wedding." "Of course. Ethan has mentioned your financial situation. We want to help." "Help? With your attire?" "The venue will be quite formal. We have a seamstress who works with the family. She could create something appropriate for you. At a reasonable cost, of course. You do not need to do that. I insist. We cannot have you feeling out of place. This is about Diana looking her best on her special day, and that means everyone in the family photos needs to meet a certain standard." I smiled. A tight smile. "What kind of standard, Catherine?" "Polished, put together. Not like someone struggling to make ends meet." Catherine touched my arm with false warmth. "I know this must be hard for you, losing your husband, living on whatever pension he left, watching your daughter marry into a family like ours. But we want to welcome you, help you fit in." That was the moment I decided. Not just to test Ethan, but to test all of them. This whole family who looked at me and saw poverty, saw weakness, saw someone who needed their charity and their pity and their carefully calculated help. I went home that night and called Lisa Torres. "We need to talk," I said, "about a project." Lisa had been my partner for 15 years before I sold the company. She knew my work better than anyone. "What kind of project, Rebecca?" "The kind that wins Oscars," I said. "Or destroys weddings." She laughed. "Tell me everything." And I did. Lisa and I met at her studio in Wicker Park the next morning. She had kept the old workshop even after I sold the company to Warner Brothers. The space smelled like latex and spirit gum and possibility. "Rebecca Stanton wants to create prosthetics again," Lisa said, pouring coffee. "This should be good. I need to look like I had a stroke. A convincing one, medical grade. Something that would fool occupational therapists and neurologists." Lisa set down her coffee cup. "You want to fake a disability? To test your future son-in-law who thinks you are poor." "Exactly." She smiled slowly. "That is either brilliant or completely insane." "Both," I said. "Definitely both." We spent 3 hours planning. Lisa pulled out medical textbooks on stroke presentations. We studied facial droop patterns, hand tremor mechanics, the specific ways muscles fail after neurological damage. "This is not just makeup, Rebecca. This is performance art. I know. And if we do this, we do it right. No half measures." We ordered custom latex compounds from our old suppliers. Medical-grade silicone for the skin texture, glycerin for the drool effect, pneumatic controls for the hand tremors. Lisa designed a wheelchair modification to hide all the equipment. "Rebecca, this is going to cost serious money." "How much?" $220,000 give or take. I pulled out my checkbook. "Make it perfect." Over the next month, Lisa and I worked 12-hour days. We cast molds of my hands, created prosthetic overlays that would shake convincingly, developed a pneumatic system I could control with my toe. The tremors looked random, but I could start and stop them at will. The facial prosthetics were harder. We needed something I could wear for hours without overheating, something that would look real under scrutiny. Lisa created a partial mask that attached with medical adhesive. It created a subtle droop on my left side, just enough to notice, just enough to scream stroke. The voice modulator was my idea. A small device that sat against my throat hidden under a scarf. It made my speech sound slurred, wet, damaged. Combined with careful performance, it was devastating. We tested everything on video, watched the playback frame by frame. "Too much droop," Lisa said. "Neurologists would spot that as fake." We adjusted, tried again. Better. But the hand tremors need more variation. Nobody shakes at exactly the same frequency. She reprogrammed the pneumatics, added random intervals, subtle changes in amplitude. It looked perfect. It looked real. It looked like a woman whose brain had betrayed her body. The wheelchair came from a medical supply company. $13,000 for a top-of-the-line model. Lisa gutted it and rebuilt the interior. Hidden cameras in the armrests. Digital recorders under the seat. Battery packs disguised as medical equipment. This thing could record 8 hours of video and audio, she explained, in HD. With backup storage to the cloud. Perfect. The oxygen tank was easier. A theater prop I had used on 3 different films. It hissed convincingly. Had all the right tubes and connections, but delivered nothing but room air. No actual oxygen needed. Just the appearance of medical necessity. We practiced for 2 weeks straight. I would arrive at the studio each morning, and Lisa would transform me. 4 hours of makeup and prosthetics. Then I would perform. Walk with a shuffle, sit with a slump. Let my head loll slightly to the left. Speak with that wet, slurred cadence that made people uncomfortable. Lisa filmed everything. We reviewed the footage with brutal honesty. Your right hand moves too smoothly, she observed. Someone with left side weakness would compensate differently. Show me, she demonstrated. I copied. Tried again. Better, but the shoulder rotation is wrong. We worked on every detail. The way I held a cup. The way I turned my head. The specific difficulty of swallowing that stroke patient's experience. By week 3, I could maintain the character for 6 hours straight. By week 4, I had developed muscle memory. The performance became automatic, natural. Week 5, we did a test run. Lisa took me to a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. I stayed in character the entire time. The barista offered to help me with my cup. An elderly man held the door. A young mother looked at me with pity. Nobody suspected anything. Back at the studio, Lisa said, "You are ready. But Rebecca, are you sure about this? This is not just testing Ethan anymore. This is psychological warfare. He called my daughter's mother someone who needs to be hidden away, who is not good enough for family photos, who would embarrass them." "Yes," I said. "And he is about to find out what real embarrassment looks like." The plan was simple. I would stage the stroke gradually, start with small symptoms, confusion, fatigue, weakness on one side. Diana would notice first. She was trained to spot these signs. She would insist on medical evaluation. I would go through the motions, vague doctor's appointments, inconclusive tests, just enough to seem legitimate. Then, over 7 months, I would slowly decline. Let the symptoms progress. Let Ethan watch his future mother-in-law transform into exactly what he feared most. A burden. An embarrassment. A problem that needed to be managed. Lisa helped me set up the technical infrastructure. Cloud storage for all recordings. Automatic uploads every hour. Legal documentation that everything was being done in Illinois, where one-party consent made the recordings completely legal. We consulted with a disability rights attorney. Made sure every step was defensible. Because when this went public, and it would go public, I needed to be bulletproof. The attorney was clear. "What you are doing is legal," she said, "but it is going to be controversial. People will say you are mocking disabled individuals." "I am not mocking them," I said quietly. "I am exposing someone who treats them as less than human. That distinction matters. Will everyone see it that way? No, but the disability rights community will understand. They face this attitude every single day." I started the performance on a Tuesday in June. Diana came over for dinner. I pretended to drop a glass. Let my left hand shake slightly. "Mom, are you okay?" "Just clumsy," I said. But I slurred the words, just a little, enough for her occupational therapist brain to notice. She studied me carefully. "Have you been feeling all right? Tired lately? Maybe you should see a doctor." "I will. Promise me, Mom." "I promise, sweetheart." That night she called Ethan. I could hear her through the apartment wall. "I am worried about Mom. She seemed off tonight." "Off how?" "Weak." confused. She dropped things. Maybe she is just getting older, Ethan said dismissively. She is only 63. That is not old. Old enough to need help, Diana. Old enough that we should be thinking about long-term solutions. Long-term solutions. He was already planning where to warehouse me, and I was just getting started. Over the next 7 months, I would show him exactly what he thought of people like me. People he considered broken. Useless. Embarrassing. And then at his perfect $225,000 wedding, in front of 215 guests, I would stand up and teach him a lesson about dignity that his Boston family had never bothered to learn. The 7 months were excruciating, not physically. The prosthetics were comfortable enough. Lisa had designed them for extended wear. But watching my daughter's face every time she visited, watching her worry, watching her occupational therapist instincts kick in as she assessed my decline, that was harder than any makeup application. By August, I was using the wheelchair part-time. Claimed fatigue, weakness in my left leg. Diana brought over medical journals. Research articles on stroke recovery. Mom, there are new therapies. Intensive rehabilitation programs. We could get you into Chicago rehab where I work. I shook my head slowly. Let the drool gather at the corner of my mouth. Too tired, sweetheart. The neurologist said rest. What neurologist? You have not mentioned seeing anyone. Dr. Harrison. I lied. Over at Northwestern. Gave me the speech-slurring device hidden under my scarf, adding wet thickness to my words. Diana's face showed doubt. Professional suspicion. Mom, I work with stroke patients every day. Your presentation is unusual. Let me examine you properly. I deflected with confusion, played tired, let my eyelids droop. She left frustrated, worried, feeling helpless. That night, I heard her crying on the phone to Ethan. She is getting worse. I do not know what to do. Maybe it is time to consider other options, he said. His voice carried through the wall. Other options? Assisted living. Memory care. Somewhere with 24-hour supervision. She just had a stroke, Ethan. She is not ready for a facility. Diana, she is clearly not managing on her own. And with the wedding in 4 months, we need to think practically. Practically, he meant conveniently. How do we make the disabled mother-in-law disappear so she does not ruin the photos? By October, I was in the wheelchair full-time. The oxygen tank became a constant companion. I practiced my performance until it was seamless, slumped posture. Head lolling slightly left, hands trembling. The glycerin drool that made people look away in discomfort. Ethan's visits became less frequent. He would stand in my doorway. Never came fully inside anymore. How are you feeling, Rebecca? He did not wait for an answer. Diana is really stressed about this. About you. I understand, I slurred. We need to talk about the wedding. He pulled out his phone, showed me photos of the venue. The Four Seasons Chicago. Very upscale, very elegant. Accessibility might be an issue. You mean I might be an issue? He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I am thinking about what is best for everyone, including you. Wouldn't you be more comfortable at home, watching on video? I want to see Diana get married. And you will, just from a distance, where you are safe. Where I am hidden, I said clearly. The slur dropped for just a moment. He noticed, studied me, then decided he had imagined it. Rebecca, this is not personal. It is about creating the perfect day for Diana. The perfect day does not include her mother. Not if her mother is going to be a distraction. He said it, actually said it out loud. Then he left. I sat in my wheelchair listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway. The recording equipment captured every word. Every casual cruelty, every moment of his disgust. November brought the final test, the phone call that would seal his fate. The wedding was 3 weeks away. I had not been invited to the rehearsal dinner. Too complicated, Ethan explained. The venue has stairs, but the wedding itself. I was supposedly still invited. Supposedly. The morning of December 1st, my phone rang at 6:45 a.m. Ethan. I almost did not answer. Let it ring 4 times before picking up, making sure to sound confused and slow. Hello, Rebecca. It is Ethan. We need to talk. Oh, hello, dear. Listen, I have been thinking about the wedding, about you coming. And I think it is best if you stay home. I let silence hang, process slowly like my damaged brain needed extra time, but it is Diana's wedding. I know, and we will make sure you see everything. We will have someone FaceTime you the whole ceremony. It will be like you are there. I want to see my daughter get married, and you will, just from home, where you are comfortable, where you are safe. Safe, the word dripped with false concern. Ethan, can I be honest with you? Here it comes, I thought. You are not well, Rebecca. Really not well. And today needs to be perfect. My family is flying in from Boston. Hospital board members will be there. Important people. The mayor might attend. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to really understand. This wedding is costing us $225,000. Every detail matters. Every moment will be photographed, filmed, remembered forever. He paused, waited for me to respond. When I did not, he continued. I cannot have you disrupting things, making scenes, having episodes. I will not make scenes. You cannot promise that, Rebecca. You are sick, really sick. What if you have another stroke during the ceremony? What if you fall out of your wheelchair? What if you make those sounds? Those sounds? He meant the occasional slurred word, the wet breathing I had been faking. Ethan, please let me come. I am trying to protect you here, save you from embarrassment. Because honestly, the way you look right now, the way you sound, it is heartbreaking. People will stare, they will whisper, they will pity you. The cruelty was breathtaking. Even knowing it was an act, even knowing I was manipulating the situation, his words cut deep. But what will hurt most, he continued, is that they will pity Diana. They will look at her and think, poor girl stuck taking care of that broken old woman. Is that what you want for your daughter on her wedding day? I made my voice smaller, more fragile. No, I do not want that. Good. Then we are agreed. You will stay home. I will have Diana call you after the reception. Wait, I said quickly. What if I promise to stay quiet? In the back? He sighed heavily, dramatically. Rebecca, I do not think you understand how you look right now. Have you seen yourself lately? Really seen yourself? You look like death. Your clothes hang off you. That drool situation is disgusting. Your hands shake constantly. You can barely form complete sentences. Each word was calculated blow. My guests will be horrified. They will spend the whole ceremony distracted, watching you instead of us. Some of them have never seen anyone in your condition. Condition. Like I was contagious. And honestly, it is not fair to Diana either. She has been stressed about you for weeks. Worried sick. Today should be about joy. Not this. I could hear him moving around, probably pacing his hotel room. Plus, there are practical issues. The venue has some stairs. The bathrooms are not fully accessible. What if you need assistance? What if there is an accident? An accident. He was painting scenarios of me soiling myself at his wedding. I have talked to Diana about this. She agrees it is for the best. That was a lie. I knew my daughter. She would never agree to exclude her mother. He said that? Of course he did. He is thinking clearly, which is more than I can say for you right now. You are not thinking about what is best for anyone. You are being selfish. Selfish for wanting to see my only child get married. Look, I will be direct since you are not getting the hint. You are an embarrassment waiting to happen, a disaster in a wheelchair. And I will not let you ruin the most important day of my life." There it was. His true voice. No more fake concern or medical excuses. "Do you understand me, Rebecca? You are not welcome at my wedding." I stayed quiet for a long moment, letting him think he had won. "I understand," I whispered finally. "Good. I knew you would see reason eventually. But Ethan." "What?" "I am coming anyway." The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. "Excuse me?" "Will is my son. I am going to watch him get married." "Like hell you are." His mask completely dropped. The polite, concerned son-in-law vanished, replaced by something venomous. "If you show up at my wedding looking like that, I will have security remove you. I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of selfish, attention-seeking old woman you really are." "Okay." "Okay? That is all you have to say? I will see you at the wedding, Ethan." I hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded with texts, threats, ultimatums, promises that he would destroy my relationship with Diana forever if I dared to show up. I turned off my phone and finished getting ready. The custom wheelchair, the oxygen tank, the perfect prosthetic makeup that had taken Lisa 4 hours to apply that morning. I looked in the mirror one last time. The broken old woman stared back at me, glycerin drool glistening at the corner of her mouth. But behind those clouded eyes was $58 million in fury and a plan that was about to change everything. I arrived at the Four Seasons Chicago at exactly 1:30 p.m. The wedding venue overlooked Lake Michigan. Floor-to-ceiling windows, crystal chandeliers, the kind of space that whispered wealth. The venue coordinator rushed over when she saw my wheelchair. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need assistance?" I let my head loll slightly, slurred my words just enough. "Here for wedding. Diana Stanton and Ethan Caldwell." "Oh, you must be the bride's mother. Mr. Caldwell specifically mentioned you might need help." I bet he did. She guided me to the very back. Not just the back, behind a marble column where I would be completely hidden from the main ceremony. A folding chair had been removed to make space for my wheelchair. "Mr. Caldwell thought you would be more comfortable here," she explained. "Quieter, less overwhelming, more comfortable." "Right." As guests arrived, I watched them carefully. Ethan's family filled the front rows. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, practiced smiles. His father, Robert, wore a watch that cost more than most people's cars. His mother, Catherine, clutched a Chanel bag like a shield. Diana's side was different. Her colleagues from Chicago Rehab Institute, our old neighbors. Friends who remembered Thomas, real people with real jobs and genuine warmth. The contrast was stark. At 2 o'clock, Diana appeared at the entrance. My daughter looked beautiful in her ivory wedding gown, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. She kept scanning the crowd, probably looking for me. When our eyes met across the ballroom, her face crumbled with relief and concern. She started to walk toward me, but the wedding coordinator intercepted her. "Places, everyone. We are about to begin." Diana mouthed, "I love you, Mom," from where she stood. I nodded slowly, my hand trembling as I wiped fake drool from my chin. The processional music started. Diana walked down the aisle on the arm of her uncle. My brother Marcus, Thomas's best friend. He had flown in from Atlanta to give her away since her father was gone. Ethan waited at the altar in his custom tuxedo, $1,200 of Italian wool. He looked handsome, confident, completely unaware that his perfect world was about to implode. As Diana reached the altar, Ethan's eyes found me in my hiding spot behind the column. For just a moment, his perfect smile faltered. His jaw tightened. He was furious that I had come. The ceremony was traditional. Beautiful vows, exchange of rings. Diana's voice cracked when she promised to love Ethan in sickness and in health. I thought about that phrase. in sickness and in health. Ethan had already shown what he thought about sickness. During the kiss, I made my final decision. I had been debating how far to take this. Part of me hoped he might show some humanity at his own wedding. Some small sign that he could love my daughter enough to accept her disabled mother. But watching him avoid looking in my direction for the entire ceremony told me everything I needed to know. He was ashamed of me, disgusted by me. Even on what should be the happiest day of his life, my presence hidden away like a dirty secret still bothered him. I pulled out my iPhone, careful to keep it low, opened my banking app, Chase Private Banking. Account balance $58,247,891.43. Then I opened my contacts, found the numbers I had memorized weeks ago. National Disability Rights Network, United Cerebral Palsy, Brain Injury Association of America. I drafted wire transfers, $600,000 each, ready to send with one touch. But first I wanted to see how much worse Ethan could get. I did not have to wait long. During the photo session, the photographer approached my corner. "Should we get some shots with the mother of the bride?" Ethan's voice cut across the ballroom like a blade. "No family photos with her. She is not photogenic right now. Not photogenic." That is what he called his new mother-in-law. Diana started to object, but Ethan grabbed her arm. "Honey, look at her. Really look. Do you want those pictures in our album forever?" I watched my daughter's face, saw her torn between loyalty to her husband and love for her mother. "Maybe just one or two," she suggested weakly. "No. I am sorry, but no. This is our day. Our memories. I will not have them ruined. Ruined. My presence would ruin their memories." I opened the transfer app again. Added another $1 million to each donation. $3.3 million to disability rights organizations. Then I started recording everything on my phone. Every cruel word. Every dismissive gesture. Every moment of his disgust. The test was complete. Ethan Caldwell had failed spectacularly. Now came the results. The cocktail hour was my window. While guests mingled and sipped champagne, I rolled my wheelchair to the business center. The coordinator helped me navigate. "Just need to check email," I slurred to her. "Daughter's insurance forms." She nodded sympathetically and left me alone. I had exactly 52 minutes before dinner service. First, I uploaded everything to the cloud. 7 hours of hidden camera footage from my wheelchair. Ethan's phone call that morning. I had recorded that too. Perfectly legal in Illinois one-party consent state. Screenshots of my banking app showing the $58 million balance. Then I pulled up the disability rights organizations I had been researching for months. Not just charities, warriors, legal advocates who fought discrimination cases, public awareness campaigns that went viral. They had platforms, voices, power. I drafted emails to all of them, attached the recordings, explained the situation, promised major donations if they would help me expose what happened here today. My phone buzzed with responses within minutes. "Miss Stanton, we are appalled by what we have heard. How can we help? This level of ableism needs public exposure. Are you willing to go on record? We have 3.1 million social media followers. This story needs to be told." I smiled, a real smile this time. Not the confused grimace I had been performing. Next, I called Lisa at the studio. "How is the performance going?" she asked. "Better than expected. I need you to document the prosthetics breakdown for tonight." "You want the reveal filmed?" "Everything. Medical-grade documentation of every fake element. I want experts explaining how this was done. Make it educational." "Rebecca, you are really going nuclear." He called me a vegetable, Lisa. In front of 215 people. Said I was disgusting. Say no more. "We will have cameras there in 30 minutes. I hung up, and opened my laptop bag. Inside the laptop bag were printed copies of everything: bank statements, the prosthetics invoices, $220,000 in itemized expenses, medical consultations with real stroke specialists who had helped me fake symptoms accurately, legal documents showing my inheritance, patents from my costume design innovations, 52 pieces of evidence, one for each minute until showdown. But the most important document was a simple one-page letter. I had written it 4 weeks ago, sealed it in an envelope, given it to my lawyer with specific instructions. If anything happened to me, if I died, if I disappeared, if I was mysteriously committed to a facility, this letter would be opened and its contents released to every major news outlet in Chicago. Insurance policy. Because once I stood up from this wheelchair tonight, there was no going back. Ethan would be destroyed. His reputation, his career, his social standing, all of it would crumble. But he would also be desperate, dangerous. Rich people with ruined lives sometimes did unpredictable things. I wheeled back into the ballroom. The lighting had been dimmed for dinner service. Candles flickered on every table. Ethan sat at the head table laughing at something his father said. He looked radiant, happy, completely unaware that his perfect world was about to implode. I positioned myself at my assigned table, table 15, furthest from the head table, squeezed between Diana's elderly aunt and a hospital orderly who barely spoke English, the forgotten table, the unwanted guests. Perfect, because from here I had a clear view of everything. The microphone system for toasts, the photographers capturing every moment, the exit doors in case security tried to remove me. And most importantly, I could see Ethan's face clearly. I wanted to watch his expression when the truth hit. Dinner was served at exactly 6:45 p.m. Salad course arrived. I made a show of struggling with my fork, let it clatter against the plate. The orderly offered to help. I waved him off with a trembling hand. During the main course, I noticed 2 people watching me intently. At table 8 sat Dr. Angela Morrison, Ethan's aunt, neurologist, at Massachusetts General Hospital. He had mentioned her before. Aunt Angela is the smartest person in our family. She can spot inconsistencies from across the room. Dr. Morrison was studying me with professional curiosity. Not pity, not disgust. Clinical assessment. At table 6 sat Dr. James Chen, Diana's colleague from Chicago Rehab Institute, also a neurologist. He specialized in stroke rehabilitation, had published papers on recovery patterns. Dr. Chen was watching me too. His eyes tracked my movements, the way I held my water glass, the specific tremor pattern in my right hand, the subtle head positioning. These were not casual observers. These were medical professionals trained to spot neurological damage. And something about my presentation was triggering their expertise. During dessert service, Dr. Chen stood up, walked over to Dr. Morrison's table. They spoke quietly. Both kept glancing in my direction. Then Dr. Morrison stood. They approached table 15 together. "Miss Stanton," Dr. Morrison said gently. "I am Angela Morrison, Ethan's aunt. I am a neurologist." I could not help but notice. She paused carefully. "Your presentation seems unusual for someone with the post-stroke deficits Ethan described." I let my head loll, played confused. Dr. Chen stepped forward. "I am James Chen. I work with your daughter at the Rehab Institute. May I ask when you had your stroke?" "Last month," I slurred. "But your muscle tone appears remarkably preserved, and your eye tracking is quite coordinated. Those functions typically show more impairment." I made a non-committal sound. Let drool gather at my mouth corner. "Doctor." Morrison exchanged a look with Dr. Chen. One of those professional communications that speaks volumes. Miss Stanton, Dr. Morrison continued. What specific treatments have you received? Therapy, I mumbled. Dr. Harrison, Northwestern. There is no Dr. Harrison in the stroke program at Northwestern, Dr. Chen said quietly. I chair that department. The table went silent. Other guests were starting to notice. Ethan looked over from the head table, saw the two doctors standing near me. His face darkened. What is going on over there? He called out. Just a medical consultation, Catherine Caldwell said nervously. Perhaps we should let Rebecca enjoy her dinner. Actually, Dr. Morrison said, her voice carrying across the ballroom. I think we need to address something important. The room began to quiet. Guests sensed drama. Angela, please. Ethan stood up. This is not the time. When is the time, Ethan? When we allow someone to be publicly humiliated for a medical condition that does not make sense. Dr. Chen pulled out his phone, showed Dr. Morrison something. She nodded. Rebecca, let me be direct. Your symptoms do not match any stroke pattern I have seen in 30 years of neurology. The tremor frequency is wrong. The facial asymmetry is inconsistent. And most tellingly, your oxygen saturation appears completely normal without supplementation. Guests were standing now, phones coming out, people recording. Ethan pushed through the crowd. Aunt Angela, stop. Stop what, Ethan? Stop pointing out that something is very wrong with this picture? Dr. Morrison turned to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for disrupting this celebration. But as medical professionals, we have an ethical obligation. Ethan's face went red. You are embarrassing yourself. Am I? Or am I preventing you from embarrassing someone you have been treating abhorrently? She gestured toward me. This woman. Your new mother-in-law. You have been calling her what exactly? Ethan froze. I may have said some things in private, but... In private? Dr. Chen interrupted. You told the photographer she was not photogenic. You banned her from family photos. You seated her behind a column. That is not private, Ethan. That is public cruelty. The ballroom erupted in murmurs. Diana stood up from the head table, her face pale. What is happening? What is happening, doctor? Morrison said is that your husband has been treating your mother like she is less than human. And frankly, her medical presentation does not support the narrative he has been spreading. I think Rebecca has something she wants to tell all of you. Every eye in the room turned to me. 215 people. Waiting. This was it. The moment 7 months of preparation had been building toward. I reached down and turned off the oxygen tank. The hissing stopped. The ballroom went dead silent. Slowly, deliberately, I removed the nasal cannula, set it aside like discarded theater props. Then I gripped the armrests of my wheelchair and stood up. 215 people gasped simultaneously. Ethan's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. Good evening, everyone, I said. My voice clear and strong. No slur. No weakness. Perfect diction. I am Rebecca Stanton, and I have something to tell you about your beautiful groom. I walked to the microphone at the head table. My steps were steady, confident. The trembling hands were gone. The slurred speech had vanished. Ethan backed away from me like I was a ghost. That is impossible, he whispered. You cannot. You were. The stroke. There was no stroke, Ethan. There never was. I adjusted the microphone, looked out at the stunned faces. For the past 7 months, I have been conducting an experiment, testing the character of the man who wanted to marry my daughter. Dr. Morrison nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. The wheelchair cost $13,000. The oxygen equipment was rented from a medical supply company. The prosthetics, I held up my hands, showed the latex overlays still attached. The trembling hands, the drool effects, cost me exactly $220,000. I created them myself. Using techniques I developed during 35 years as an Oscar-nominated costume designer and special effects makeup artist. Ethan's face cycled through emotions: confusion, horror, rage, panic. "You are lying," he said desperately. "This is some kind of trick. You were sick. I saw you. You saw what you wanted to see, Ethan. A burden. An embarrassment. Someone you could push aside and forget about." I touched my phone screen. Ethan's voice filled the ballroom through the sound system. "You look like death, Rebecca. Your clothes hang off you. That drool situation is disgusting. You look like you belong in a nursing home, not at our wedding." His own words, crystal clear, amplified for everyone to hear. Guests began standing up, some heading for exits in disgust. Others stayed transfixed by the unfolding disaster. "You called me a vegetable," I continued. "Multiple times. You said I was disgusting. You tried to ban me from my own daughter's wedding." Diana stood frozen at the head table, her face a mask of shock and betrayal. "But here is what you did not know, Ethan. Here is the part that makes this really interesting." I pulled out a folded document from my jacket pocket. "I am worth $58 million. The number hit the room like a bomb. $58,247,891 to be exact. Inheritance from selling my costume design and special effects company to Warner Brothers. Patents on breakthrough prosthetic makeup technology. Investments, real estate, royalties." I held up my phone showing the Chase banking app. All of it was going to Diana and her future family, a trust fund I had been planning to announce tonight as my wedding gift. Ethan's legs nearly gave out. He grabbed the table for support. "Was going to Diana," I repeated, past tense. I opened my laptop on the head table, connected it to the venue's projection system. My banking interface appeared on screens throughout the ballroom. Because 40 minutes ago I made some different arrangements. With everyone watching, I navigated to the wire transfer section. $5.5 million to the National Disability Rights Network, $2 million to United Cerebral Palsy, $1.5 million each to the Brain Injury Association of America and the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, $1 million to the American Stroke Association. I hit execute on each transfer. That is $11 million, gone, to organizations that fight for the dignity of people you called vegetables. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. The remaining $47 million will stay in a trust fund, but with new conditions. Diana gets access only if she divorces you within 100 days. If she stays married to someone who treats disabled people like garbage, the money goes to charity too. Diana found her voice finally. "Mom, I do not understand. Why would you do this? Test Ethan like this?" I looked at my daughter with genuine love and sadness, because I needed to know who he really was. When he thought I was poor, he treated me like trash. When he thought I was disabled, he treated me like I was not even human. I turned back to Ethan. "You work as a hospital CFO. You are supposed to ensure quality care for vulnerable patients. Instead, you called one a vegetable at your own wedding." Ethan was crying now, mascara from his spray tan running down his cheeks. "I did not mean it. I was stressed. The wedding, the pressure. You meant every word." And now 215 people heard exactly what you think of disabled individuals. Dr. Morrison stepped forward. "And I am ashamed to call you family. What I witnessed tonight goes against everything we stand for as medical professionals. Aunt Angela, please. No, you have shown your true character, Ethan, and it is ugly." I pulled up one more screen on my laptop. "There is something else you should know. This venue, the Four Seasons. They donate a portion of wedding revenue to the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, disabled patients. People recovering from strokes and brain injuries. People you would probably call vegetables too." The irony was not lost on anyone, and the final twist. I have been recording this entire evening. The footage goes live on social media in exactly 10 minutes. Along with a complete breakdown of the prosthetics deception, the disability rights organizations I just donated to have already agreed to share it with their millions of followers. Ethan's phone began buzzing frantically. His colleagues, his hospital board contacts, his social media. They were already seeing clips people had posted during dinner. Your career as a hospital CFO is over, Ethan. No healthcare system will hire someone who calls patients vegetables. No medical facility will trust you with vulnerable populations. He collapsed into a chair, the fight completely drained out of him. $47 million, I said to Diana. 100 days to decide what matters more, money or staying married to someone who failed the most basic test of human decency. I looked around the ballroom one final time. The bar remains open. Enjoy your evening, everyone. I walked toward the exit, my steps strong and sure. Behind me, Ethan Caldwell sobbed into his $1,200 tuxedo while 215 wedding guests filed out in stunned silence. The test was complete, and he had failed spectacularly. The ballroom emptied in 20 minutes, not gradually, not politely, like a fire evacuation. I stood in the lobby still in my costume but walking normally now, watching the exodus. Dr. Morrison approached me first. Miss Stanton, what you did tonight. I have never seen anything like it. Good or bad, I asked. Necessary, she said firmly. Ethan has always had cruel tendencies, but this. She shook her head. I work with stroke patients daily. What he said about you. What he believed about disabled people. It is everything wrong with healthcare. Dr. Chen joined us, his phone in hand. The video is already going viral. #VegetableBride is trending on Twitter. 2.1 million views in the last hour. My phone buzzed constantly. News outlets, talk shows, documentary filmmakers. The story was spreading faster than wildfire. Miss Stanton, a young reporter from Channel 5, approached. Could we get a statement? Before I could answer, Ethan burst through the ballroom doors. Still in his tuxedo. Makeup destroyed. Hair falling from its styled perfection. You destroyed me, he screamed across the lobby. You ruined my life. Hotel security stepped forward, but I waved them off. You destroyed yourself, Ethan. I just gave you rope. 58 million. You had 58 million, and you let me think you were poor. I wanted to see who you really were. Who I really was? His voice echoed off the marble walls. I was trying to protect my wedding, my reputation, my family. By calling disabled people vegetables, that was private. Between us, nothing is private when you are cruel to vulnerable people, Ethan. The disability community has been fighting this attitude for decades. Tonight, you gave them the perfect example of why their work matters. He pulled out his phone desperately. It is not stopping. The comments, the shares. They found my LinkedIn, my work email. Someone posted the hospital's phone number. I felt no satisfaction watching his panic. Just sad recognition of consequences, meeting actions. Northwestern Memorial already called, he continued, tears streaming. I am suspended pending investigation. The hospital board is reviewing my position. Dr. Morrison stepped closer to her nephew. And you called a patient a vegetable at your own wedding. On camera. What did you expect would happen? She is not a real patient. It was fake. But your attitude toward disability was real, Dr. Chen said coldly. And now every disabled person in America knows exactly what you think of them. Diana finally emerged from the ballroom, looking shell-shocked. She had removed her veil. Her eyes were red. Mom, can we talk? I nodded. We walked to a quiet corner of the lobby. I do not understand any of this. The money, the test, the deception. Your husband failed the basic humanity test, sweetheart. But why this way? Why humiliate him publicly? I looked at my girl, 33 years old, good heart, but still naive about the world. Because private cruelty toward disabled people happens every day, in hospitals, in nursing homes, in families. It stays hidden because victims often cannot speak up for themselves. So you decided to speak for them. I decided to show what that cruelty looks like when it is exposed to light. Diana was quiet for a long moment. The money, the inheritance, you would really give it all away? Sweetheart, I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. But dignity, respect for vulnerable people, that is priceless. And if I stay married to Ethan, then you stay married to someone who thinks disabled people are vegetables. And $47 million goes to organizations that fight that attitude. 100 days. 6 months later, I sat in my real office, not the fake studio apartment I had been pretending to live in. Reading the morning news, Diana had filed for divorce on day 96. The settlement was clean. Ethan got nothing except his legal fees and a permanent reminder that the internet never forgets. The hashtag vegetable bride still trended weekly, usually attached to news stories about disability rights victories. The foundation wants to offer you a permanent position, she said. Director of Public Awareness, 6-figure salary, full benefits, travel budget for speaking. The Rebecca Stanton Foundation for Disability Dignity started with $11 million of my money, now funded by donations from people who had seen the wedding video and wanted to support the cause. I am considering it. Mom, you have spoken to over 60,000 people in the last 6 months, medical students, hospital administrators, disability advocates. You are changing minds. The wedding night had become a case study in medical ethics courses. The prosthetics breakdown video was shown in film schools as an example of effects artistry used for social good. Most importantly, hospitals were implementing new policies about how staff discuss patients with disabilities. There is something else, Diana continued. Kevin and I want you to walk me down the aisle. I looked at my daughter, 33 years old, choosing love based on character instead of appearances, making her mother proud in ways that had nothing to do with money. I would be honored, sweetheart. No prosthetics this time, she said with a small smile. No prosthetics. No tests. Just a mother walking her daughter toward happiness. That evening, I received an email from Dr. Morrison. Rebecca, I wanted you to know that Ethan attempted to sue you for defamation and emotional distress. His lawyers withdrew the case after reviewing the recordings. Turns out truth is an absolute defense. Also, the Illinois Medical Board used your case in their updated guidelines on disability discrimination. You have created real change. I forwarded the email to Lisa Torres. She replied immediately. That $220,000 investment just kept paying dividends. Never doubt the power of good special effects. When are you coming back to the studio? We have 3 film projects that could use your expertise. Maybe after the speaking tour, I wrote back. I am not done teaching yet. The next morning I spoke at Northwestern University Medical School. 200 future doctors filled the auditorium. I stood on stage. No wheelchair, no oxygen tank, no prosthetics. Just me, Rebecca Stanton, 63 years old, black woman, costume designer, mother, advocate. I showed them the wedding video, played Ethan's recorded phone call. Then I showed the prosthetics breakdown, how I created each element, the pneumatic hand tremors, the glycerin drool, the voice modulator. Medical students took notes, asked technical questions about stroke presentations. But then I shifted the discussion. Now imagine I was not faking, I said. Imagine I really was a stroke survivor. Would Ethan's words have been any less cruel? Would his treatment of me have been any more acceptable? The auditorium went silent. This is what disabled people face every day, I continued. Healthcare workers who see them as burdens, family members who treat them as embarrassments. A society that calls them vegetables. A young woman in the third row raised her hand. How do we change it? By recognizing that disability does not diminish humanity. By treating every patient with dignity, regardless of their condition. By understanding that the person in the wheelchair, the person with slurred speech, the person who needs oxygen, they are still people, still deserving of respect. I showed them one final slide. Statistics on disability discrimination in healthcare settings. The numbers were staggering. But then I showed them the change. New policies implemented at 12 major hospitals since the wedding video went viral. Training programs on disability, sensitivity, patient advocate positions created specifically to protect vulnerable populations. Your generation will inherit a healthcare system with serious problems, I said, but you also have the power to fix it. One interaction at a time, one patient at a time, one moment of choosing dignity over disgust. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of students lined up to talk, to share their own experiences, to pledge to do better. As I packed up my laptop, a young black woman approached. Miss Stanton. I am a third-year medical student. My grandmother had a stroke last year. The way some staff talked about her, like she was not even in the room, it broke my heart. I am so sorry. Your video, your story, it gave me language for what I witnessed. It showed me that we can fight back against that attitude. She handed me a card. I am starting a student organization, Disability Dignity in Medicine. Would you consider being our faculty advisor? I looked at the card, at this passionate young doctor who wanted to change the world. I would be honored. Outside the auditorium, Diana was waiting. How did it go? I think we reached them, sweetheart. Good. Because Kevin and I set a date. 6 months from now. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. She smiled. Think you can handle being mother of the bride without going undercover? I laughed. A real laugh. The kind that comes from healing. I think I can manage. We walked through the Northwestern campus together. Mother and daughter. Past students rushing to classes. Past the medical center where Ethan used to work before the wedding video destroyed his career. Past the Disability Resource Center that now bore a plaque. The Rebecca Stanton Accessibility Initiative, funded by donations from people who believe that dignity matters more than appearances. Diana linked her arm through mine. Mom, do you have any regrets? About the test? About Ethan? Only one, sweetheart. What is that? That it took $220,000 in 7 months to teach a lesson that should be automatic. That every human being, regardless of ability, deserves respect. That was always going to be an expensive lesson, I said. But worth every penny. Where are you listening from right now? What city? What state? What country? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach across the world. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Share it if you know someone whose family treated them like a burden when they needed help most. Someone who was called names, dismissed, hidden away like an embarrassment. Someone who deserves better than being called a vegetable. Subscribe, because I have more stories about people who tested character, who exposed cruelty, and who proved that disability does not diminish humanity. Thanks for listening to Rebecca's story. Remember that testing someone's character when they think you have nothing reveals who they really are. That disability is not something to be ashamed of or hidden away. That calling someone a vegetable says everything about your character and nothing about theirs. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand up and walk away from cruelty. See you in the next story.